Good evening. I'd like to call the Lincoln Way 210 Board of Education meeting to order. Please stand if you're able for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can you please call the roll?
Dana Berthel.
Here.
Catherine Johnson.
Here.
Joseph Costick.
Here.
Richard Lacine.
Present.
Caitlin Olenek.
Here.
Deidre Stokes. Aaron Janik.
Here. At this time, I would entertain a motion to amend the agenda for tonight's meeting and move informational items to the top of the agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. With that, we will now hear the report of the Lincoln Way Special Education District 843 Governing Board meeting held March 25th, 2025.
All right, thank you. At our last meeting, we discussed that due to the growing space needs of the co-op, there is a need to move the district office of the co-op to another location to make room for additional students. 157C has been gracious enough to offer space for that. So there was an agreement that was being drafted between the co-op and 157C to use that space so that they can move their administrative offices to a building, which we are grateful for, so there's more room for students. Additionally, the fence that was agreed upon is working to be installed, but it will not likely happen at spring break, but it will happen soon. So they're in the process of getting that fence erected around the playground area. So that will be nice once that's finished, and no other major concerns or issues.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have FOIA requests.
They're included in backup materials. We did receive several FOIAs. In fact, districts throughout the state received them. They were AI generated. We then asked for a response to extend by 5 additional business days. We did not get a response to that request, so therefore we're waiting. That's what several districts in the state of Illinois did. They were asking for vendors and expense reports, everything that has already been submitted to the Illinois State Board of Education. But as you can see from years 1998 all the way to 2024, once again, AI generated, nothing that, I don't know, we don't know. But we were in communication with several districts throughout the state and our attorneys, and this is the advice we received.
Buildings and ground report.
Once again, in your backup materials for your review.
Quick question on it.
Yes.
The internet, we have network service internet. There's really nothing on there.
Cheryl, are we not paying for it? Okay, so we're paid through E-rate.
Gotcha. Saw it down 98%. I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good bill. Then I saw zeros. I'm like, wait a minute. All right, District 210 Advisory.
So I can report for Deidre. They've been working on the handbook. In fact, the first reading of the recommended changes are in. So for number 5, the major addition would be some language regarding AI and use of AI by the students. We'll continue to work on PD in terms of how AI continues to evolve in education. This is going to be a nonstop, never changing cycle for the foreseeable future. Amy, am I missing anything? Any other significant additions or deletions?
No, I think that was, that's
Pretty much it.
It was in the hands of the teacher to
Yes.
Yeah, the wording on it is, I think you're one of the first districts to even put wording in it, which is, I think you're ahead of the game. And I mean, the feedback from teachers is that it's good to have, and especially the wording on it is that it's used as a teacher discretion as a tool. It's just really good wording on it, so. The only thing, I mean, the cell phone use is gonna be a bigger issue, like page 14. I think the wording is still good. I mean, that's gonna be like an ever-growing problem, is gonna be cell phone use, and, you know, not only with the student use, but in the future with, you know, the parents too are gonna be with, but is there any state level guidelines, or guidance about cell phone use coming through?
So we have not received any official guidance yet. They've written the bills and different things and legislation, but nothing yet. The majority of this language was from the Illinois Principals Association. It was from the Illinois Principals Association, something that they had put together. But this is the first cycle of any handbook revisions that have had the opportunity to use any language as such. And we were actively looking for something and did come across that. I think it came from Ted. And so then we said, okay, we massaged it a little to fit our, but yeah, we don't know what the state guidance is going to be yet on cell
Right.
phones.
I mean, I think the wording is good right now. It gives teacher discretion, and so we still have something in place as a regulation.
Yes.
Which is good.
We do.
But there is various opinions among teachers who want more of a district policy saying, overall, do this, right?
And that's hard
Yeah.
when some teachers utilize phones in class every day.
And I do sometimes.
Yes,
Like a
yeah.
QR code here,
Yeah.
so it's hard to have one policy.
I do think the blanket is difficult. Several of our departments do the pencil cases on the side of the desk or a pencil box on the top of the desk and ask the students to put their phones in there for the class, and the students have been really good about that. But I don't think a one-size-fits-all. That's why it'll be interesting to see what legislation actually gets approved and comes
Yeah.
about.
I think it's an ever-changing thing, but I think the wording's great.
Good, thank you. So we'll bring the handbook back in May for approval.
So I think technically we covered 5, the first reading of the
We did.
school?
We did.
Okay.
I jumped
All
ahead.
right. No problem.
Jumped ahead.
All right, then we're on to the first reading for the textbook adoption.
Textbook adoption, we have 2. We have culinary careers, actually, the Serve Safe course book, the 8th edition, and then the culinary arts principles and applications, and then English 2 honors. As some of our more veteran board members, we've put together a cycle, and we try and stay somewhere between that $200,000 to $500,000 threshold. And so we are in a very good place now that this year will be under that threshold, but we're in a good place. As many of you recall, at one point when we started these cycles, we were 10 to 15 years behind, and so we're in a pretty good place there. Anything to add, Tracy? We'll follow all the rules. These will be on display, and we'll bring them back for approval in the next meeting. The teachers obviously and teachers and department chairs were involved in the selection of these textbooks.
All right. Next up is the legislative report.
I could go through that entire spreadsheet, but I won't. But there is a spreadsheet for your information. There's a lot going on in Springfield right now. And so this is kind of a compilation of everything. I don't know what will pass, what will come, what will go. The last time we talked about eliminating the IHSA requirement of students to not play travel during their season. They've amended that. They've said you can now, but it must be a nationally recognized event, and the school district has to approve it. Basically, they took all the teeth out of it, so I don't think it's a problem anymore. Like, if we have a kid that's going to go to an Olympic trial, we'll approve that. That's, if they're going to trial for the Olympic soccer team, the 17U team, we'll approve that. If we have a pitcher, Lincoln Way pitcher, and they want to go throw somewhere and throw in a travel tournament weekend, we're probably not going to want to do that. And so it'll be interesting. It has not passed both houses yet, but we'll continue to monitor that and several other bills. But there are quite a few. I don't know how impactful any of them will really be, but I did want to share those with you.
All right. The next up, we have the superintendent's district report.
2 items. We got a request to annex into our district. We have not had a formal annexation request since my first year, so it had been 13 years ago. And so this is a home that is to go to Peatone. If you go down our border that goes south from New Lenox, they're on the east side of the border that would go towards Peatone. They're requesting to go to Manhattan grade schools and Lincoln Way high schools. So they would do this through the ROE. They send us an information sheet, which I filled out, which we will submit back to the ROE. It goes to the Regional Board of Trustees hearing to approve. Now, typically, the receiving district, which would be us, we're going to get a couple students, we're going to get the taxes, it's kind of a wash. However, the detached district is typically the one that files litigation and tries to stop this. For instance, that line goes straight down, and then it's going to bump out a little bit and then come back down again. If this family wins, what's to stop everybody in that same line going, wait a minute, we can go to Lincoln Way too? I don't know what the trustees will do. The last one we had was New Fairfield up in Joliet. Actually went to Joliet schools, but went to New Lenox grade schools. That one, I thought was a no-brainer. They should come to Lincoln Way schools. I said it all along. In fact, it was before any of you were on the board. But Joliet contested that because their fear, if they lose that, they could lose all of Route 59 on the other side of the district, possibility of industrial south. They couldn't risk the loss. So I don't know how this will be ruled. This hasn't come up for a while, but I wanted the board to be aware. We're going to send our request. It would not be my recommendation to file any sort of suit whatsoever. I think we just kind of let this play out. And if we pick up some property, that's what it is. And any thoughts or questions from the board?
Is this a subdivision, or is this just a single home on a single plot of land?
This is a house on a plot of land.
And what's around it? Are there other?
A street.
Okay,
So a street with other houses. So it's, because it is connected, it's up to our property, is why they could annex that. Brian, you looked at that street. It's a street with a couple houses.
Yeah, there's about 5 or 6 homes on that road.
On that one road. And so that one road is continuous to our district, but is the boundary. So it would make sense that if they're going to do it, those other 5 houses are also going to do it. That changes the property values of their home a little bit. And so we'll see what the ruling goes, but unless, I mean, I don't see any reason for us necessarily to fight it. It's not like they're going to send us 1,000 kids. And these kids are, I think, 2 and 4. So,
Right.
any other questions or thoughts? Okay, good. Second item, we had our rating call yesterday with Standard & Poor's. Bob Lewis from PMA, Mike Kelly and myself were on the call. It lasted about an hour and a half. I shared the presentation with the board. We'll put that up into public after the meeting this evening. I thought the rating call went very well. I'm cautiously optimistic we'll get another bump, which would help with the funding that we're looking to do. When we get there, we'll talk a little bit about the market and some different options. But every little bit of that rating bump helps. If you recall, we were able to get a bump before we refinanced the $135 million the last time around. They're going to get us the report Tuesday morning, Mike, was that it? Tuesday morning, they typically give you 4 or 5 hours then to review that and get back to them, and then they publish it. So we'll be checking our emails Tuesday morning and optimistic that we'll get another little rating bump and would put us almost back to where we were, right, Mike? Would one more bump? Okay. So the 3 things they wanted to see the last time they rated us, they felt that we exhibited that change for this time around. So cautiously optimistic. We'll see where that goes.
All right. Also, I'd like to point out the use of the new logo on the presentation. So, nice work, everyone.
We're there. That's right.
All right. Next up is other district business.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Are you sure? We need a few more minutes.
We do.
Waiting for Deidre to get here. She's on her way on Lincoln Highway.
We could go to closed session and then come back. It's your call. Or we could just go to recess and wait. See how close we are.
She said she was on Lincoln Highway, so I mean, I
Okay.
could start,
Okay.
reading through some notes I've taken here. Why don't we entertain a motion to take a 5-minute recess? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All right, we are in a 5-minute recess or until Deidre arrives. order again. And with that, we are going to be moving on to the reorganization portion of the agenda. And I would ask Secretary Costick to read his piece, which he should have in front of him.
The Will County Clerk has certified that Aaron P. Janik, Deidre W. Stokes, and Joseph M. Costick have been elected to the Lincoln Way Community High School District 210 Board of Education for a full term. I motion that the board accept the report of canvasses and election results as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'd like to welcome the newly elected board to the board table. So we're all here. Congrats. All right, now we need to take our oath of office. So if the board members that were just seated, could please stand.
Please recite the oath together.
I, Aaron Janik, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the oath of office of member of the Board of Education of Lincoln Way Community High School District 210 in accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois to the best of my ability. I further swear that I shall respect taxpayer interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets. I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board while respecting the privacy of students and employees. I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual and that decisions can be made only by a majority vote at a public board meeting, and I shall abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels. As part of the Board of Education, I shall accept the responsibility for my role in the equitable and quality education of every student in the school district. I shall foster with the board extensive participation of the community, formulate goals, define outcomes, and set the course for Lincoln Way Community High School District 210. I shall assist in establishing a structure and an environment designed to ensure all students have the opportunity to attain maximum potential through a sound organizational framework. I shall strive to ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children in compliance with state law. I shall serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students and our community schools to advance the vision for Lincoln Way Community High School District 210, and I shall strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the school district toward fulfilling the vision the board has created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and personal development.
That is a long oath.
Need some tea. All right, with that, we would need to elect a board president. Do we have any nominations?
I nominate Aaron Janik to continue as board president.
We have a nomination and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone. Next, I would entertain a motion to elect the vice president.
I nominate
Nominate-
Dennis
oh,
Jansen.
no.
Go ahead.
Oh, I nominate Catherine Johnson.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, congratulations, Catherine. Next, we need to elect the board secretary. Do I have a nomination?
I nominate Deidre Stokes.
We have a nomination. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, nomination and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we would entertain a motion to establish the compensation for secretary. I guess I can make the motion that the position of secretary remain a non-compensated position. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry, Deidre. Yeah. And I would also entertain a motion to approve the adoption of the present board policies and parent-student handbook. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. I think we are through with the reorganization. Next up is committee appointments. Dana, I'll keep you on. My role as president as District 843 Governing Board delegate. For the District 210 Advisory, we'll have Catherine, the Lincoln Way Foundation liaison, Joe. The ISB Three Rivers Board representative would be Caitlin, and Deidre would be the IASB Board delegate. And with that, we'll move on to public comment. We have no one signed up this evening, no presentations. Move on to the consent.
Oh, sorry.
Come on up.
Oh. Oh, no problem.
Come on up.
If you could just hit the green button, a little person.
Little person button.
Sorry. I actually went to Lincoln Way, so this is kind of cool to be here. So thank you. Sorry, I also did not know how to sign up for the minutes. But my name is Courtney. I work for an agency called NIAP. It's National Youth Advocate Program. We are a foster care agency that works with placement for youth that are in care. Just kind of an idea, there's around 644 youth that are in foster care just in Will County alone. And so right now in foster care, there's also 19,480 kids in Illinois. And we only have 7,380 homes. So there's obviously a pretty big deficit when we're looking at the difference between how many kids there are and how many homes there are. So on average, a child in foster care moves about 8 different times throughout their time in care. Obviously, moving homes most of the time means moving schools, and leaves a lot of deficits in their education. And in those deficits, it creates a lot of problems with their attention, their ability to focus, their behavioral issues, as I'm sure you guys have seen in the school district. So 64.4% of youth who are youth in care graduate from high school, as opposed to 87.3% of youth who are not in care. We also have 47% of youth who are in foster care have received special education services. The dropout rate is 3 times as high for youth in care, as well as it's 3 times as high for them to be expelled or have suspensions. And on average, 40% of youth have just difficulties with education that are in care. My goal and what I would love to be able to do is to go into the schools, go into the school districts, and work with teachers and really try to help give kind of like a training almost of helping them to support youth in care that are in schools just have better success. It's definitely something that I've seen a lot of deficit in and what I've done over the last 10 years in my work in foster care, and I would love to be able to be a part of this district and coming into this school and trying to help students succeed as much as you guys do. And that's it.
All right, thank you very much. All right, with that, we would move ahead with our consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve items F1 through F7.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. Vote is unanimous, motion passes.
All right. Next up, under action items, we have the presentation of invoices for March 21st, 2025 through April 17th, 2025.
Motion to approve invoices in the amount of $4,229,708.74.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions on the invoices? Hearing none, can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. This vote is unanimous, motion passes.
All right, next up under action items is the treasurer's report for March of 2025.
In March, revenues totaled $3.1 million, expenses $10.5 million. Total cash balance on March 31st was $24.6 million. Through the end of March, 55.6% of budgeted operating revenues have been received. 73.5% of operational spending has occurred. Through this point last year, that was 55% and 74.3%. So both operating revenues and expenses are trending about 1%, within about 1% of last year. In addition to special education transport costs talked about last month, medical claims are being watched after trending higher for the last couple of months. That was similar to the early months of last calendar year as well. After the stop losses at the end of the calendar year expire, that's been common, and so that's just something we're watching. Through March, liquid rate stayed at 4.3%. We do have some CDs and smaller T-bills maturing in April, giving us about $140,000 in investment revenue. And then the cash flow report was negative $2.2 million. Quarterly mandated categoricals were initially slated for March. They're now anticipated in April. Monthly local revenue a little bit lower than in past years, and about $300,000 of that cash variance was from the timing of capital project invoices. That has been inconsistent over the last 2 or 3 fiscal years, just when those contractor invoices come due, whether that's from the preceding summer or the upcoming summer. As you can see in the bills payable list, we do have like $180,000, I think it was, for Borg. That's for this upcoming summer, which actually is a nice point to illustrate the discussion about life safety funds in advance of summer projects. Overall, initial cash flow as of last summer, at this point in the year, we thought would be $20.1 million, and we're sitting at $21.2. So overall, I feel good about where we're at. Happy to take any questions you might have.
All right, any questions on the treasurer's report? No questions. With that, I'd entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. This vote is unanimous, motion passes.
All right, next up is the resolution providing for the issue of not to exceed $31,330,000 general obligation school bond series 2025B for the purposes of altering and reconstructing school buildings and purchasing and installing equipment therein for fire prevention and safety, energy conservation, and school security purposes, providing for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal and interest on said bonds, and authorizing the proposed sale of said bonds to the purchaser thereof.
Very good. There's, in your backup materials, we did include the cover memo and the bond resolution. Obviously, we've discussed this the last couple of meetings. With the timing of the sale right now, as we know, the market is very volatile. What they're seeing is when the municipal bonds are going out to market, several bidders, because of the volatility, there's the anticipation that interest rates are going to drop. So we're kind of in a catch-22. Do we wait a little while, wait and see if the rates drop, or do we get to the market now where they've seen up to 30 bidders? I believe it was 30 bidders on the last. And obviously with the demand right now of them wanting to purchase these at a 3 to 4% rate, that's a possibility. You know, we do believe with our, if we get the little bump from Standard & Poor's, with the volatility and the competition, we can do better than what we've projected that we've been showing everyone. Mike, anything to add on that?
No, in talking with Bob Lewis, the only comment I would have is looking at this at the end of April, we have an opportunity to adjust that if necessary, but there is the risk with interest rates going higher because of tariffs. So that's the other side of that coin, right? So right now, in my discussions with PMA, the recommendation pending board support and approval this evening would be to move forward. And if anything were to change, that assessment would be made at the end of April, and then obviously brought to Dr. Tingley and yourselves.
And we do believe we can do as well as we've projected in the models that we've shared with the board, as well, if not better.
You may have mentioned this earlier tonight. When do we think we'll hear from Standards and Poor?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay.
Yep. Yep.
So how involved is it so we move forward with making a recommendation and then things shift dramatically in either direction? What
Yeah.
does that look like moving?
So right now, sales scheduled for May 5th, and then the closing would be on June 2nd. If there were anything substantial, and Bob did say it would be substantial, because you have risk on either side, right? On either side. We have, the timing is built in, there's flexibility both on the method of sale and the timing of the sale built into the resolution you're approving. And so that gives us the flexibility to push that. How far we push it, if we do a joint with the Series 2025A, that's the purchasing of the buses, the debt certificate, the operating debt certificate, that, he said, if we push it past the end of may need an additional resolution, but that, again, in the scope of things, is a much smaller dollar amount in operating funds. That's not a taxable piece, right? So, by the end of April, we would know, and I think before the May board meeting, certainly. But I don't anticipate, as of right now, the timing of any of this to change.
So we're approving tonight the district giving the opportunity to purchase.
Yep, you're
Yes.
approving a
Based on the
parameters
best.
resolution. Yep, you're approving a
Okay.
parameters resolution, and then what happens is they put that out to the bond market. As Dr. Tingley mentioned, we get the rating, and then that will affect how those bidders come in. Sale bids are due at 10 a.m. on May 5th.
Okay.
Bids are due at 10 a.m. on May 5th. There's no action required from you at the May board meeting or anything like that. The action's tonight, and then closing happens early June.
Okay, thank you.
How soon after closing do we start using the proceeds?
So we'll have the proceeds before the end of the fiscal year closes, which is good, and that's back to my board comment about, some of the contractors. We're paying before the actual summer work begins, right? And so, and DLA's fees for some of the costs for the engineering and the design. So throughout next fiscal year, we will be releasing, not tens of millions yet, right? But along the way, and then certainly that first summer will be the big first chunk of that. But we'll have the funds now.
So we can invest it.
Yeah, correct.
Rich, do you have anything to add on the timing of the project or anything like that? I know you and I talked about it.
We're gonna be out in
September, yeah, we talked about that today. We'll be ready to go in September for the following summer and the next summer. And we're putting it all out there with some flexibility for them to complete it within basically an 18-month period.
Doing it in one bid for, as we talked about before,
One
one bid
bid,
for
as we
economy
talked
of scale, economy of scale.
What did we decide on are we abating the interest made off of the investment?
That will be something we'll have to do
Discuss.
annually and come back to the
And
board to
discuss.
discuss.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
I will say for the revenue, and you asked Aaron about when it's received, pending your support tonight, and I think I might have mentioned this a month or two ago, but May, June, we may do, I'm going to work with the auditors, we may just do an amended budget just to document that in terms of the books for the
Right.
fiscal year. Yep. So that would be business as usual, but just FYI.
Any further questions on this? All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the life safety bond issuance as presented.
so moved.
We have a motion and a second. Can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. This vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
All right, next up is the second reading of the debt policy.
And with that being said, we cleaned up the policy we had talked about 2 meetings ago, not to exceed that 15, what do we got in here, 15%, and we rolled it back to 12 years. The draft had, was it 14 or 15, Mike?
We talked about 12 to 15
12 to
before, so we
15.
rolled it back to
let's-
12.
Let's roll back to 12. Before we would have to take another bite at the life safety apple, you're going to take 2 or 3 more, maybe 4 years off of this. And so the goal is just to continue to get rid of those high bars and replace them with lower bars, but not as often. And we discussed this with Standard & Poor's in our rating call. We also discussed this with our bond attorney from Chapman & Cutler yesterday. We received positive reviews from both groups that said this, this is solid. I also shared this with the community leaders at the breakfast, and once again received some positive feedback from community leaders that said this is a good way for the board to monitor and stay on top of the long-term financial structure. Any questions?
Is this similar to the same, like, other philosophies of other boards nearby?
I can't speak to that. I can't. I think for us, it's important just because of our history and kind of where we've been, and it gives us a target, right? We wanted to get down to that 10-year mark. We're going back to 12. Let's try and get under 10 before we take a bite again, and just keep that big number rolling off. There are districts that have more debt and extend it longer years. I know Manuka's just took out 8 years for their field house and stuff, but I can't speak to individual districts. Mike, you've got more experience with other districts.
And I don't want to single out Bob Lewis or anything like that. I can't speak to specific boards, but I do know that his commentary has been twofold. One, he's worked with a couple of clients doing bond issuances right now with that revised legislation that used to be capped at 20 years and is now 30. He's doing issuances where districts are going out 30.
Wow.
That's comment one, and not of interest
Yeah.
here at Lincoln Way. Number
No.
two, he did say, just like the board's fund balance policy, but this debt policy is one of the more robust and fiscally conservative that he's ever seen. So that's his commentary, and I think when Scott says he's in favor of that, obviously I think it's well written. So.
You said Standard & Poor's said they were receptive to it, or they
So we shared with them both our fund balance policy and our board policy 440 and said we will be bringing this back for a second reading. And so they had both of those material items as they're making our decision. They'll bring both of those to the committee to say, here are 2 things that the board utilizes to monitor both, the annual day-to-day, the fact that we do the 5-cast twice a year. We gave them our financial forecast for 5 years. They know we look 5 years back and 5 years forward. This was a piece in that to show that there is board governance as we try to borrow $30 million. Yeah.
And I think one of the benefits too is for, anyone that's lived in the area for a long period of time, it's nice not to have surprises all the time. And I think, stability is definitely a factor in the district, and it has been. And I think this shows that there's a desire to continue that and make sure that, barring any, weird things that might come up, that there's a thought process around keeping consistent and letting people know this is what's on the table. This is what, living within your means, knowing what you have to spend, knowing what needs to be repaired, and then monitoring it all at the same time with the help of having it planned and at least available when those things come up. So thank you for that.
Any further questions on the policy? All right, hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the second reading of the debt policy?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. This vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
All right, next up is the student activities report for March 2025.
For the month ended March 31st, 2025, total student activity fund balance is $2,166,960 with revenues of $393,036, and expenditures of $335,911. There were 4 in the negative at the time of this printing, however, 3 have already been covered. And as we discussed yearbook, we added a paragraph in there just kind of as an explanation. And Kelly did that for us. And then by the end of next month, the 3 are already covered. By the end of next month, yearbook should be covered as well as more students register and pay for the yearbook for the upcoming year.
All right, any questions on the student activities report?
Scott, so the class of 2026 one that was already covered, that came, was that graduation fees or?
So, no, class of 26 is prom, so they had their
Oh.
prom last weekend, so that's,
Got it.
we're good. Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the student activities report for March 2025 as presented?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. This vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
All right, next up is the electric commodity contract.
So the district has previously engaged in, over multiple contracts with Direct Energy. We partner with Mike Perry as our commodities broker. I believe Mr. Perry has come to the board and presented in the past, while some of you were on the board. Our current contract expires in December of 2025. Typically, we would bring something to you in the fall. Chuck and I have worked with Mike, and we're bringing something to you tonight because in June of 2025, Illinois will be implementing a change that was approved in '24 legislatively in terms of how ComEd purchases electricity. They're going to transition away from traditional net metering, energy-only supply process. There's credits for various types of energy. It's all on the billing side. But what that means is the impact to us as the consumer is, as you can see in the memo, 1.5 to 2.0 cents per kilowatt hour effective as an additional cost increase on June 1. And so in working with Chuck and Mike Perry, by doing something now with that change in law, we can avoid $192,000 projected increase by acting now. And so the recommendation is instead of the 48-month, the typical 4-year agreement, that we do it now, approve this effective when this expires in December, but also to go 54 months and to get us onto a June cycle, which aligns with how they rate their capacity. Mr. Perry helped us. We went out to RFP. In reviewing multiple responses, I will tell you both negotiated rates and indexed. We're on a fixed negotiated price now, and where the market's at, a strong recommendation to move to the index at this time. As you know, electricity costs over the last couple of years have been really high for us, and so this is part of a multiple-month effort that Chuck and I have been doing with Mike to get that under control. So by tracking that, you can see there's some additional materials there's some additional information in your packet materials tonight. Anticipated budgetary savings, $124,000, and then as we work with him to look at our meters, reduce capacity tags in the coming year, another $185,000 rolling off in the subsequent year, 26-27. So all of that to say about $500,000 in savings. That 54-month I mentioned will align with the government's capacity auctions, and so that allows Mike and Chuck to know the entire capacity rate and get that best price when locking it in. Chuck, is there anything else that you want to add?
The only thing is that with the index, we can
Do you wanna-
always
Chuck?
lock in to a fixed rate if the index goes crazy.
So I'm a little confused. The prices are going to increase, but we're going to save $125,000.
But we're going to go with the index. The trend is that the index is going to go down below a fixed rate. With the fixed rate is going to be whenever it's established, obviously, right? And if the index goes below that, we're stuck at fixed rate.
And then what if the index goes above the fixed rate then? How does that work? Or does that work? Maybe I'm missing something here.
Chuck,
If the fixed rate, if the index trends high,
Right.
and with Mike Perry and Direct Energy, if it starts to trend real high, we can lock into a fixed rate. That is all going to be determined on purchasing capacity demand. So he watches all of the indicators prior to hopefully the raise. And if we see that trend to go up, and we can lock in at a fixed rate, we're not obligated for a long period of time either. Once we lock into that fixed rate, we can always come out of it. You know, but the trend right now is the index is to go way down. Like, we may see electric prices that we haven't seen for 8 years or 10.
Why is it the trend it's going to go down? What's driving that?
Well, what's driving it is the purchase of the capacity. They're changing the laws. Also, there's less drive for electric-driven materials. So the demand is not as high as it's been in the past 5-6 years.
How quickly do those changes happen? Is that a monthly shift? Is that like the stock market where it's daily?
It does. It's a very, I mean, you're
Fluid.
talking hundreds % of kilowatts.
Okay.
You know, it happens monthly. It happens, a lot of it happens hourly.
Okay.
So they're constantly watching that. You know, we're talking a very.
That's what Mike Perry does for us. He watches the hourly
Yeah,
stuff?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
He actually
Yes.
came to
Okay.
us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Sure.
So
that's why he's not here, because
Yeah,
it would be
he's watching
4
right
hours.
now?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
Watching the little things
yeah.
spin on the
That's
meters?
what we're paying him for, yeah.
so just to make sure I'm understanding, so we can lock in when it gets scary, right? When it gets too high, are we thinking that
Mm-hmm. We
it might
wanna
just
lock
keep
in
going
before
higher
it gets
before it gets
scary.
too
Yeah,
high?
right.
Yeah, and then, but it can always be lower than that if we,
Yep, we can,
Just
once we
choose
can
to,
lock
like-
in, we can lock in for a month, we can
Period
lock
of
in
time,
for
okay.
6 months, we can lock in for a week.
so that's flexible as
Mm.
well. Okay, that's great, thank you.
Mike, does any of this commodity contract stuff affect the construction design, the rebates and all of that? Did anybody look into that with DLR?
The rebates with
So,
our architect.
like all
for
the
the-
mechanical stuff we're gonna do over the next 18 months, they'll all come with attached rebates?
Not to my knowledge, sir, but I will ask.
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of, sometimes you gotta get information before you do it.
I'll look into it. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the Direct Energy Electric Commodity Contract as presented. We have a motion and a second. Can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. Vote is unanimous, motion passes.
All right, next up is the landscape services bid.
So we currently partner with Brightview for landscape services. That's our weekly tasks. You see them out. They're doing fertilizer, weed control, mowing, all of it. Current agreement is the third consecutive with them, and it is expiring June 30th of 2025. So Chuck and I, we went out to bid. Bidders were required to list their annual price points for a new three-year agreement, and specifically, we designed the bid where it could be awarded to one contractor for the whole district-wide, all sites, or to provide flexibility where we could do a split award. We had 4 bids, Carefree, Berry, Brightview, from the ground up. Bid tabulation and details in your packet materials. We went through all compliance requirements, bid criteria, reference checks, and the two lowest were Berry and Carefree. You can see in the cover memo, Berry lowest for west and transportation, and Carefree lowest for central and east. And we recommend at this time going forward with a split award for those two. Fiscally, financially, I will say, the previous contract, 3-year cumulative cost of $537,000. If approved tonight, this would be $518,490. So not too often can we bring forward a contract like this with some reduction in cost. So that's also great news. Chuck, anything else you want to add?
The advantage to the split bid is that what we've run in the past is having to wait for the single contractor to complete one school to go to the next and go to the next. This gives us the flexibility to have 2 contractors in 2 different sites on the same day.
All right, any questions on the landscaping services bid?
And then Lincoln Way North is not part of that because it's. Okay.
District does some of that, and I think we're doing some of that separate.
All right, hearing no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the landscape services bid as presented and direct district administration to finalize terms for service contracts. We have a motion and a second. Can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. Vote is unanimous, motion passes.
All right, we had already done the informational items at the beginning of the meeting. And with that, I would entertain a motion to enter into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of employees.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, we are in closed session, and we will have action afterwards. All right, we are back in open session, and with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the termination of Chris Servid. We have a motion, do we have a second? We have a motion, and a second, can you please open the vote?
Voting is open. This vote has 6 ayes and 1 abstain. Motion passes.
All right, we have any other business to attend to tonight?
None this evening.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting is adjourned. Next meeting is May 15th, 2025.